Hey everyone, and welcome back to That Disney Girl. So this week is an exciting video for me because this is the first video that I'm putting out that 1,000 of you are subscribed to this channel, which is honestly so cool. I didn't think that even like 10 people would be interested in some of the stuff that I'm talking about, so I just want to say thank you to everyone who subscribed, and I hope that more of you subscribe and like to go on this Disney journey with me. And I was thinking, what kind of video should I do to like start off this new journey of 1,000 subscribers? And then I thought, what better video to put out than a video that literally probably nobody is ever going to search? Because I mean, let's get real, let's look at all of the other videos that I put out. Yeah, it's basically like unsearchable content 90% of the time, so let's just continue that way. So of course you can read the title of this video and you know that today we are going to be talking about the backstory of Tortuga Tavern, which is one of the restaurants inside of the Caribbean Plaza in Adventureland in Magic Kingdom. So it used to be called like El Pirata EL. I literally cannot pronounce the name, so I will pop it down there. But then it got remodeled and became Tortuga Tavern, and a whole backstory kind of came in with it, and we're going to talk about all of that today. I think the interesting thing about Tortuga Tavern is that it combines the movies with the books about Pirates of the Caribbean, so we get a nice mix in there, and it gives us some pretty solid backstory characters to play with, and you know I love those, so let's get into it. So we know that Tortuga Tavern is a place for pirates to come because there is literally a Jolly Rogers flag sitting right on top of the entranceway. And if you were a crappy pirate like me and you had to Google what a Jolly Rogers was, it's that skull and crossbones pirate flag, you know, the one that we all have seen a bunch of times. That's what it is, and it's right inside of that entryway. And inside, as soon as you step in, there is this code of conducts for pirates. These are the rules of the tavern, and Vandals decided to kind of add their own input, what these rules mean over the years. So at first you're gonna read what the owners would have said, and then we're gonna right after say what different customers added in after that. So let's begin. Every man has equal title to fresh provisions, if and he has the gold. Got it, cool. Moving on. Ye fair ladies shall be treated in a favorable manner. Wenches, be not fair ladies. So basically only if you're old and married, you're gonna be treated fair. Got it, ladies? Cool. Witness shall be present for gaming at cards or dice. Short drop and sudden stop for cheating scallywags. So yeah, don't cheat if you want to stay alive. Duels by cutlass or pistol shall be taken outside with witness. Ye witness must have one good eye. And then damages unto establishment shall be paid in gold, doubloons, or pieces of 8. Parrots be not legal tender. And right under that is written no monkeys, and that's definitely something that a customer would have added on, and it doesn't pertain to any of the previous rules that are listed. And when you look at the idea of no monkeys, I totally think that this would have been Jack Sparrow that wrote that, because if we refer back to the movies, we can see that Jack did not have a good thing going on with monkeys. And Jack does tie into the backstory of this restaurant, so let's continue to look at the restaurant and see how that all happens. So when you go into Tortuga Tavern, you get to find out that this was probably the place that different pirates would have met up, started to have different chats, and this is where crews were formed. And there's actually a book deeper into Tortuga Tavern that has 2 very famous crews listed. So if you look close, you'll be able to see the crew of the Black Pearl, and on there you're gonna see that Captain Jack Sparrow has crossed off Hector Barbossa's name, and then there's also going to be a crew list for Queen Anne's Revenge, which would have been captained by Edward Teach, or as we all know, the notorious Blackbeard. So when I was looking at this book and looking at the fact that Jack crossed off Barbossa's name and kind of took control of the ship, I was trying to place where this whole restaurant takes place in the course of the cinematic universe of Pirates of the Caribbean. And I'm thinking that it takes place between the 4th and 5th movies, and this is because it's in there where Captain Jack actually gets full control back of the Black Pearl, and it's no longer Barbossa, so you kind of get that back and forth going along through the entire series, but it's at this point that it is officially Jack, so that's why I'm kind of thinking there. And I mean, at this point, Jack does own the ship in a tiny little bottle, but it was Queen Anne's Revenge that destroyed that ship and made Jack have to put it inside of that tiny little bottle. So the fact that both of these ships are signing up crews on there at the same time kind of makes me think like this is what happened right before that big battle all took place. And yeah, they just kind of correlate and they're matching in that same timeline. So that's why I'm thinking it's gonna be probably around the 4th movie going into the 5th. And if you look closely onto that list for the Black Pearl, you're going to see William Turner's name, which is something that's really interesting because if you ever read the Disney Adventure comic books in there, William does sign up for the Black Pearl at Tortuga Tavern, so that's just something interesting to note. And then on the opposite wall from those books is going to be a giant portrait of Blackbeard. And something interesting that Imagineers did here was that Blackbeard was actually based on a real pirate, and he was just as terrible as he is in the movies. He basically just killed for sport. And something that he used to do against his enemies when he was in battle was light his beard on fire. So when you were fighting him, you were literally fighting someone who had like fire going off of their face, but didn't seem to mind it at all. And on this mural, you're going to see that the ends of his beard are smoking. So it's kind of like an ode to the real pirate. But I think that in the context of the story, the reason that he has a mural on this wall is because he just was so intimidating and threatening that he was able to get himself a big painting of him on the wall. Because, I mean, if they didn't do it, he might have burnt the entire place down. But now let's get to some of the main characters and the real storyline behind Tortuga Tavern. So if we go on over to the fireplace, you're going to see that there's this picture of a woman there. And I know a lot of people might think that this is something that would be referenced to one of the ladies in the movies, but it is actually Arabella Smith, and she is going to be a character from the Young Jack Sparrow novels. And she's in it throughout the entire time, and she's going to be our main protagonist in this story. So when Arabella was a young girl, she assisted her father, and I don't know what his first name is. Every time that I've read something about him, he's just referenced as Smith, which is their last name, so we're just going to call him Smith. And Smith owned something called the Faithful Bride, and that was a pub, which is what Tortuga Tavern is today. But he was basically a huge drunk and did nothing to help out the place, and Arabella was kind of like the main person running everything. Something interesting about that name, Ye Faithful Bride, is that if you play the Pirates of the Caribbean online game, you're going to be able to visit that pub inside of the game. So it's something that definitely still exists in the universe of Pirates of the Caribbean. And in the books, Ye Faithful Bride is somewhere that all of the pirates would have met up. This is something that we can clearly see that Imagineers were trying to tell. I mean, of course they met up there. You had that book there signing people up for their cruise, and that's where all the pirates would have congregated. And the idea of Faithful Bride comes from the original Pirates of the Caribbean screenplay, and although it's not the name of this pub today, it's definitely referenced, and there even is a sign in the front that looks like it's been chucked out. And one more little tidbit about Faithful Bride is that this is what in Dead Man's Chest, that cantina area, is supposed to be called. In the script, it's only referenced to as Cantina, but many fans have speculated that that was the true original name of the place. So once again, we're just tying that into the cinematic universe with the books, and it all really truly makes sense that they would kind of try to tie it in to the backstory of this restaurant. Something you need to know about Arabella off the bat is that she had a mother, but her mother died, and her mother was a pirate. So Arabella has this pirate adventure kind of sensation running through her veins. So one day when a young Jack Sparrow walks in and starts kind of flirting with her and says that he wants to go and find a sword, she has no hesitations to leave the pub, go find a boat, and then go on this first journey with him, which is gonna kind of lead her into many more journeys throughout the course of these books and help her meet a few important people along the way. So on one of their expeditions, they end up bumping into a ship called Le Fleur de Mort, and the captain of this ship is no one other than Laura Smith. And yes, that last name should ring a bell because Laura Smith is Arabella's mother. So right away, we're like, what? I thought you were dead, but she's not dead. And what Laura did was pretty shady. I think she decided that when Arabella was a little girl, she was going to take off and leave her with her drunkard of a father and go on this pirate life because that was her destiny and what she had to do. And Laura ended up inviting Arabella to come and be a pirate with her, and while Arabella was making that decision, Laura didn't even think twice, and she just ended up taking off before she could get her daughter's answer. I mean, what the heck? But Arabella was basically very forgiving. She ends up going on all of these pirate adventures with her mother, and when she's on those adventures, she meets someone by the name of Bill Turner. And if that name doesn't ring a bell, I'm sure Bootstrap Bill will. This is going to be William's father. And I'm gonna throw one more little curveball at you. I think that Arabella Smith is the unspoken mother of William Turner from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. So let's look at why I think that. So in the books, Arabella Smith is told to be the daughter of a pirate. Makes sense, Laura. She was wed to a pirate. Makes sense, because she ended up actually dating Bootstrap Bill, so let's say that they got married, and then she is said to have birthed a pirate, which makes sense again with this theory because she could have birthed Will Turner, who is, as we know, of course, a pirate. And inside of the books, nothing tells us that the couple would have ever broken up, so we have every reason to believe that this relationship could have definitely flourished into a marriage as well as a family. If we look at the history of Bootstrap Bill, we know that he met his wife while sailing. So once again, this is tying into this entire theory perfectly. And here's a little excerpt from the books that makes total sense as to why Arabella would have been married to Bill, because of the way that Bill talks to Jack. And once again, let's remind ourselves that the three of these people really knew each other well. Arabella and Jack would have been definite good friends, so keep that in mind when listening to this. So Bill says, "No thanks, Jack, I have responsibilities now." Jack: "Yes, and how's the little wife?" "She's doing very well, Jack, and I know she'd love for you to visit, and then you could meet our son." Of course, Arabella would love for Jack to visit. They were best friends. They were going on all these visits together, and they have a son. Not a daughter, they have a son, which once again, we're making total sense in this entire theory. And inside of the book Legends of the Brethren Court, Jack Sparrow seems to hint that he knew Bootstrap Bill's wife very well, and all three of them had lots of adventures together. Okay, so here's where my theory starts to get a little bit jarring, and this is a theory that has been told online, but I don't think anybody's ever kind of gone around this jarring aspect of it, and I think I have, so let's dive in. So in the context of this theory, Will and Arabella end up moving to England, where they stay until Arabella passes away. And so the jarring thing here is that according to Will's idea of what his mother is, which we heard from the first movie, is that she is dead. Doesn't make sense because this place is called Tortuga Tavern and Arabella is actually running it. It's her face that's on top of the sign right in front of the entire pub. And we know that she's also here because if you go around to the back of the pub, right up the stairs, you can actually see that her hat and her jacket is waiting out there, just like she just dropped them there when she went inside of her house. So from all of these things, we can definitely see that she still is alive and well, and she exists in this home for sure. So that's the big issue. I mean, what kind of mom would just run away from her son, make him think that she's dead, and then just kind of never resurface again? Oh wait, that's exactly what Laura Smith did to Arabella Smith. So that's kind of like the role model she's had in her entire life. And we know that Arabella ended up going on many different adventures with her mother, so who's to say that Arabella Smith didn't get that kind of itch to become a pirate again and ended up taking off, leaving her son the way that her mother left her. And once again, if we look at Arabella's case, she never held this against her mother. I mean, inside of the tavern where you could see Arabella's photo, on top of that fireplace is her mother's photo. She's not holding any grudges against her, and to her, this might be how parenting works, especially when you're living the pirate life. So that's why I think that she still existed. Pause. She went on the Flying Dutchman later in life after she had her son, which as we know is where Bootstrap Bill was, and maybe she went on there to give him a little bit of a visit because it was her husband. She wanted to say hello. And we know that she ended up running Tortuga Tavern to kind of lay low after doing all of these pirate adventures. Arabella got some huge enemies, which were the people in the secret files, and these people wanted her dead. So if she wasn't laying low because she kind of felt bad about leaving Will, she had no choice but to lay low if she ever wanted to see her son again, because if she kind of made a big deal of herself, she was probably gonna end up dead. So think about the Tortuga Tavern as like a secret hideaway when you're visiting there and eating your burrito. So in the end, I'm choosing to believe that Tortuga Tavern is kind of the last key and a little bit of a riddle to find out who Will Turner's mother was. And just one more kind of like, I don't know, interesting fact or something that I noticed was the fact that the pub was originally called The Faithful Bride, as we have discussed. And if we look back to Pirates of the Caribbean, before Red came in, that new pirate animatronic, there used to be a auction of a bride, and I don't know if they kind of correlate in any sort of way, but I like to think that they kind of do, and the fact that they removed that bride aspect from the ride, and then they removed that name from the tavern, and then they renamed it Tortuga Tavern, and then they put Arabella on there, and Arabella has fiery red hair, just like Red. I don't know, maybe I'm putting some connections here, but I'm thinking there is a slight possibility that Red inside of the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction could actually be Arabella Smith. So that's the history of Tortuga Tavern. It is a place where pirates would come, and now you get to go there when you go to Magic Kingdom. Make sure that when you go there, you check out the rules on the wall and the paintings that are going to be there, as well as everything on the fireplace and that book with all of the pirates' names on there. If you know any more clues, or if you've read the Pirates of the Caribbean books or the Disney Adventure comics, or if you play those online video games, tell me if there is anything else that correlates to this backstory, and if you want to share it, down below in the comments. So if you've made it this far, thank you, and I hope you've learned something new about Tortuga Tavern and the entire Pirates of the Caribbean cinematic universe. And if you did, you gotta make sure that you give this video a nice big thumbs up, and you gotta subscribe. And if you wanna know when I post videos, just hit the little bell, that notification bell, and you'll be able to catch them every week, or almost every week. I really try to put out videos every week. But for now, I will see you all real soon. Okay, bye everyone.